So linear equation, pretty simple. We're gonna stick to this level for now, or probably forever. Yeah, it does get a little bit more difficult than these guys. So what are they asking to do here? We're gonna have to come up with an equation. So they've given us statements, and we're gonna use these statements to come up with an equation. Okay. So anyways, linear is always gonna be in the form of mx plus b. So there's always going to be a y, there's always going to be an x. Now the question is, what is your m, which is the slope, right? M is the slope, which is rise over run. And b is your y-intercept. In other words, b is also the value when x is 0, right? In other words, the starting value. B is all of those things. It's the y-intercept, but that's also when x is 0, or that's also the starting value. Let's look at a couple of these questions. One, Caroline has a yada yada. She works a total of 40 hours per week. So let's assume her wage, total wage is Y. What's an equation that gives us her total wages for the week? What do you think? It's not that difficult. To do this question, you first got to establish what Y is. Y is going to be her total wage for the week. And X is going to be the number of hours she works in a week, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Y will be 40x. The total money she makes is 40 times x. If it helps, we can even draw a table. So xy, x is hours. If she doesn't work any hours, it's 0. If she works 1 hours, she makes 40. That's actually a pretty high paying job. I wonder what she does. 2 is gonna be what? 80, yeah? Do you see the
Mm-hmm.
pattern? 3 is gonna be 120. Therefore, y is always gonna be 40 times whatever that x is. That's why y is 40x. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, B. Same person now. Maybe she switched jobs. She earned $540 in total, right? She worked 15 hours. We don't know what hours is in the first job. I'm going to say now X is the number of hours in her day job. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Plus 11 is the number of, or Y is the number of hours in her evening job. So there you go. That's the equation. We don't have to worry about solving this. In fact, this equation by itself is unsolvable because there's one equation, but we have 2 missing variables.
Mm-hmm.
So this, you can never solve this. To solve this, you're going to need another equation, which we don't really want to worry about right now. What's the answer for C? I will tell you the X and the Y's. Y is his total wage, including his base wage plus the commission. And X is the number of, what? Cars. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So how much does he earn? Well, he's gonna earn 500 for sure. That's his wage, right? And then he earns 6%, which is 0.06 as a decimal, depending on the number of cars he sells. Or I guess you can say car is the selling price of cars. X is the selling price of cars. So how does this work? Let's say the car is worth $1,000, right? The car is worth $1,000. So if he sells one car, he earns 6% of that, which would be 60. If he sells 2 cars, it's gonna be 120. Just like that, it keeps going. So his total wage, if he sells 1 car for the week, is gonna be 500 plus 60, 560. If he sells 2 cars, it's gonna be 500 plus 120. Okay. This is the y-intercept. This he's gonna earn no matter what, and this would be your slope. See that?
Okay.
You
Mm-hmm.
wanna have a go at E? Nickels are what, 5 cents? Dimes are 10 cents. In this case, on one side of the equation, you're gonna have 5.25 and
And then 5x and 10x.
yeah, 5, not x though. So one of
5.
them will be x, and then the other one will be y. So now let's analyze this equation. What did we just write? X is the number of what? Nickels. And y is the number of dimes. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So you can make a table for this. Actually, you don't have to worry about it, but like if you have 1 dime, you have 1 nickel, you have 15 cents, right? 15 cents. Anyways, this equation, you can't really solve it. But the fact that you're able to come up with this equation, that's going to be important heading forwards, okay? The ability,
Okay.
this is a skill, right? Like in maths, this is always going to be like this in maths. They're going to give you a word problem, like a general statement, and then your job is going to be able to translate it into something that you can work with. So that's the main idea, right? Let's see if we got something else. We can try doing a lot of these. Don't worry, it's not that difficult. By the way, it's not that difficult. It's just y equals mx plus b. Y equals mx plus b. All right. Let's look at this. Create an equation that she can use to check her paycheck each month. So y is going to be her paycheck. Okay, the total amount of money that she makes. She's gonna get $1,200 no matter what. That's the y-intercept. That's her baseline pay. What does x represent in this case? When you're talking about commission, right? How does commission work? It's based off of what? If you want a hint, it's read part B. The first statement in part B has a big hint for what x represents. Commission is always based on the total amount of sales. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
X is the total sales. So it's going to be plus 0.035 times X. Here, let's do a quick example on the side. Let's say your wage is $100, okay? And let's say you get 5% commission on whatever you sell. So let's say you sold $200. 5% of 200 is 10, right? So your total wage is going to be 100 plus 10, 110. Let's say you sold $400. 5% of 400, you can multiply them together, it's going to be 20. So therefore, your total wage is 100 plus 20 equals 120. You see that? Commission is always based off of the total sales. And this is actually a pretty, I don't know, we can go off on a quick tangent here. Commission-based jobs are a little bit tricky. Because this one is pretty good because you get paid the minimum wage, which $1,200 a month is not much. It's basically minimum wage, and then they get a lot of their money from their commissions. Have you ever gone to like Best Buy or something along those lines, like a store? Doesn't apply to even a Walmart, any store, the electronic store. They're always trying to sell you something like a TV or whatever, or a new internet service or a new phone service. And they're pretty persistent in that sense, right? Now, why are they like that? It's because they make a commission for every sale. This one's the worst example. It's the best example for the worst car sales, especially used car sales. They are very, very, very pushy. They're gonna be like, oh, you need to buy this. It's a good deal, yada yada. Why? They make a commission. Another very pushy commission-based thing is like a house broker. Someone that finds you a house, a real estate agent is what this means. Someone that finds you a house and is very pushing you to buy it, right? Why is he like that? By the way, these people, they don't act. Again, the Best Buy example also works. These people aren't acting in the best interest for you. They're acting in the best interest for themselves. So you gotta always pay attention to that. And what's the alternative? How do you get away with something like this? You get a second opinion. If you're trying to buy a car, don't just go to one showroom, right? You want to go to multiple, see what they all throw at you. Because again, it's well, this is the issue with capitalism. They're working in it for themselves. Like they would make the most amount of money for themselves. So that's why I always double, triple check. Use multiple sources. And this would also apply to you later on in school. When you're trying to write a report or something, you can't just use one source. You can't just be like, hey, I got my information from Wikipedia or something. By the way, Wikipedia is banned. You can't quote Wikipedia in academia. In school, if you get something from Wikipedia, or you can't use Wikipedia. Wikipedia is just for like common sense or basic knowledge. Why can't you use Wikipedia? Well, it's because it's not fact checked. Anyone can edit a Wikipedia page. So let's say you find a news article or something, right? Then you need to get another news article or a journal or something that's talking about the same issue, and they kind of have to match. This one can't say like the COVID rate is like 30% and the other thing says like 5%. That's not good. That means this one is probably wrong or that one's wrong. So you need to check multiple sources. Same thing applies in real life. Like
Okay.
eventually you're going to be buying your own phones and your own laptops and whatnot. So you want to check multiple places. Anyways, commission is always based off of the total sales. And there we go. That is our equation where Y is the paycheck and X is the total sales. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because X fluctuates, right? X is going to fluctuate. X is going to be the independent variable here. So depending on how much you sell, your dependent variable of Y is going to go up or down, depending on how much you sell. Let's do B. So what is 96,174? Is it X or Y? That's a lot of sales. Is that
It's
X or
Y.
Y? That's Y. Sales is X, right? Look at this. X is the sales. Y is her total paycheck. Y is her paycheck, whereas X is the sales. So we know X is 96,174. Her pay before deductions was this amount. So now let's check. If she did sell this much amount, what is her paycheck gonna be? Well, her paycheck is gonna be 1,200 plus 0.035 times X. Yeah. Trying to find my calculator. There we go. So times X, so 96,174. So 0.035 times 96174 plus 1,200, and that gives me 4,566.09. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there we go. So this is right. Okay. And if you have a really like like an evil villain boss, he might say, no, we didn't make this much or like whatever. So that's why you also kind of got to double check. It doesn't happen in most places. It's actually illegal to do that, but yeah, some people are kind of not nice. So yeah. Also happens a lot in the tip industry. Tip industry as in what do you tip for? Like restaurants and whatnot. Cool. Are you getting this?
Mm-hmm.
Step one, identify what X and Y could possibly represent. Let's read this question. She pays $350 registration fee. Is there any way around this? Would this
No.
fluctuate? Does this fluctuate?
It doesn't.
It does not. So what is 350? What doesn't fluctuate? Y equals mx plus b. Which one of these guys does not fluctuate?
B.
B. So that has to be our y-intercept. And then $85 monthly fee, right? Monthly fee. So that doesn't fluctuate either, but that's the amount you pay will depend on the number of months, right? So what's the equation here? Something x plus 350. What do you think? What's the slope? Look at the other numbers that they've
85.
given. 85, right? So what does y represent? Y is the total fees that she pays
Mm-hmm.
over the course of the year. What does x represent?
The months.
Yeah, the number of months. So after 5 months, she paid 775. So we know x is gonna be 5 and y is going to be 775. Actually, does that make sense? What is this question asking us? Let's put this as x first. So if we do that, 85 times 5 plus 350, that does give 775. So what is the question actually asking us? So it's trickier than it looks. Leah's club has a higher registration fee, but a lower monthly fee. Okay. And then this question is asking us to determine the monthly fees for Leah. So we know for a fact she paid 775, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And we know X is 5 because 5 months, but now we don't know what the monthly fee is. So let's assume that the initial registration fee is a $75. Okay. So now our M is missing, right? Our slope is missing. So how do we solve this for M?
Isn't it supposed to be like higher though? Like
Maybe
the
you're right.
registration
Yeah,
fee?
you're right. So let's turn this into 375. Because that will give us a nice number. How do we solve this equation for M?
Subtract 375.
I'll give you 400. 400 divided by 5 is 80. So therefore, one combination is that her monthly fee is $80, and the total she pays is, or registration fee is 375. That's gonna be one combination, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And just like this, you can just change this number and then you can get a bunch of new numbers. So 775 is equals to M times 5. And let's now say 475. Let's say the registration fee is 475. Subtract that from both sides, you get 300 is M times 5, so M is 60. Another combination would be $60 a month, but initially the registration fee is 475. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
make sense?
Yep.
Here's a question for you. How do gyms make money? Kind of related to this question. They have a registration fee and they have a monthly fee. And they have a capacity for about 500 people at any given time. So if you think about the electricity costs, the facility costs, yada yada, 500 people, there's no way they should be making money. So how do they make money? How are they still operating? And the answer to that is a little dumber than you think. It's because there will never be 500 people at any given time. Okay? There's always gonna be about like 50 people to maybe 100 people. Maybe at busy times there's gonna be 200 people. That's reason number one. It's never gonna be at full capacity. Reason
Mm-hmm.
number two, not everyone goes to the gym every day. So even though you pay a monthly fee or a weekly fee, you're not gonna go every single day of the week. Some people do. A lot of people don't. 99% of people will not go to the gym every single day. Third reason, this is probably the worst. They gridlock you into signing a year-long contract. Most gyms in Canada, you can't just go for a week or a month. You have to sign up a contract for a year. So what happens is maybe you'll go for the first few months and then the last few months you stop going. See that? That's how they make money. So keep that in mind if you want to sign up for a gym. If you're in school anyways, every school should have a gym. And if you go to university, almost every university has a gym, and the fee for this is included in your school fees. So we're talking about beyond university. Okay. That is how they would make money. All right. Let's look at some actual math questions. Okay, at 9:20 a.m., Adrian left this place with 64 liters of gas. He drove, there's a lot of numbers here. He drove east at 100 kilometers per hour. The low fuel warning came on when 10 liter of gas were left. It uses the gas at a rate of this. When did the warning light come on? Wow. A lot of things going on here, yeah? What do you think X and Y represents here? I'll give you one of them. Y represents the fuel left in the car. What does X represent? The answer is here. Or here. Well, you gotta read between the lines. It's not as obvious. Any ideas? Just have a wild guess. Think about it logically as well, right? Like, you're losing fuel, but what are you making progress in? Because if you're losing fuel, you're traveling, so some number is going up.
Kilometers.
Yeah, kilometers. X is the distance he's traveled. Okay, X is the distance he's traveled. So now let's come up with an equation. So Y is going to be equal, so what's the Y-intercept? What's the initial fuel? How much?
64 liters.
Yeah, 64. Is it gonna be plus or minus? Is the fuel going up or down?
Down.
Down, so
So minus.
minus. What's the slope? Slope is something that we also call rate of change, right? Slope is a rate of change. So what's the number for the rate of change here? Well, it's 8.8, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Over 100, it's given right there, and there we go. That's your equation. Rate is the slope. So, cool. So let's
Yes.
find out, how do we solve this for X? Actually, we don't have a Y value yet. So we know he had 10 liters of gas left. So Y is gonna be 10. Cool. Y is 10. How do we solve this for X?
You subtract 64.
Okay, we subtract
Or
64, we get negative 54. Now what?
multiply by 100.
Yeah. So, and then after that, what do? You divide. Again, if there's a negative sign on both sides, if that's the only thing that's there, you're multiplying everything, you can just ignore them or cross them out. Only if there's a plus or minus thing going on, then you can't cancel them. So 54 times 100 divided by 8.8, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So X is 613.63. Cool? So he has traveled that amount of kilometers. So if he travels at 100 kilometers an hour, how long does it take to travel that? So if your speed, here's some physics for you. If your speed, again, you can do this logically as well. Speed is v. You can call it s as well. Let's call it s. Don't worry about the v. V is for velocity. Ever heard of the word velocity?
I think so.
So velocity and speed, they mean the same thing with one slight distinction. Velocity, again, let's just go off on it. Why not? Velocity is speed, okay, but with a direction. So when you say someone's traveling at 100 kilometers per hour, that would be the speed. But if you say someone's traveling 100 kilometers per hour in the east direction, that is velocity, okay? The number is going to be the same, but with the velocity, you got to specify the direction. Like the turtle is moving at 3 meters per hour. Is that speed or velocity?
Speed.
What if he's moving 3 meters per hour towards you? Is that speed or velocity?
Velocity.
Yeah, because we have a direction. We know he's coming towards you, right? Wherever you are. So that's just a distinction, very slight. Okay? And velocity is denoted by v. So that's why v is 100. Then this x, this kilometers that he's traveled, that's going to be distance. Cool? Gotta use some physics to do this, I guess. Well, it's not really physics. You can do this logically as well. So I'm just trying to show you the scientific way to look at this. So now we're trying to find time. Time is t. T is missing, yeah? Here's the formula for time. Time is always going to be distance over velocity. So in this case, it's going to be 613.63 over 100, which is 6.1363 hours. Cool? How many minutes are there in 0.1363 hours? How do you go from hours to minutes? How many minutes are there in 1.5 hours or half an hour?
30.
What did you do? What did you do with 0.5? You multiplied it by 60. To go from hours to minutes, multiply by 60. But if you want to go from minutes to hours, you divide by 60. For example, how many hours are there in 180 minutes?
You divide it by 60.
Yeah, and you get 3. So there's 3 hours. You see that? So in 0.1363 hours, we just multiply that by 60, and we will get the number of minutes. So 0.1363 times 60, that gives us 8 minutes, okay? So what does that mean? That means after 6 hours and 8 minutes, the warning light came on. So if you left at 9:20 a.m., what's the time after 6 hours and 8 minutes? What's 20 plus 8? 20 plus 8 is
28.
28. So 28 minutes. 9 plus 6. What's 6 hours after 9? What's the time? 6 hours after 9.
3 p.m.
3 p.m. There you go. So 3:28 p.m. his warning light came on. Does that make sense? So this is like the holy trinity of time, distance, and velocity. So we can draw it like this. Distance, time, velocity. Distance is time times velocity. Time is distance over velocity, and velocity is distance over time. So if you're looking for one of the guys on the bottom, you're probably gonna end up dividing. You divide from top to bottom, for example. So if you're here, okay, if any one of these guys are missing, you divide. It's always gonna be top to bottom. For example, time is missing, you do distance over velocity. If velocity is missing, you do distance over time. If distance is missing up top, then you multiply them. Okay? You're gonna be using this a lot, probably you're in grade 9, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing in science?
Biological diversity.
Okay, cool. So once you get to the physics portion of the course, you will probably see these guys. And it's a pretty
Is
simple.
velocity like the time it takes to get somewhere? Or like
No, velocity is the speed at which you travel to one place to another. Time is t.
okay.
So here we can do a quick example. Let's say wherever you are doesn't matter. Let's say there's point A, there's point B. The distance between them is 100 kilometers. Look at the unit. Distance will have a unit of length. Kilometer is a unit of length. Okay. And let's say
Mm-hmm.
you're traveling or you're biking or whatever at 20 kilometers per hour. What's going to be the time? Well, if you're traveling at 20 kilometers per hour, it's going to take you 5 hours to get there. And there you go. Okay. Velocity is just the speed at which you travel. Time is the duration it takes for you to get from one place to another. And distance is, well, the length between 2 points. Cool.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you'll probably see this once you go to the physics portion. Pretty tricky question, that one. You want to do another time type equation? No speed involved, though. They've given you the rate. What does rate mean? Y equals mx plus b. What's the rate? Which letter denotes the rate? M. So we already have the slope. So y is equals to 5x. What's the y-intercept? What's the initial amount of apple juice in the container?
1890 ml.
Yeah, so is the slope gonna be positive or negative if it's leaking?
Negative.
Negative, right? The juice amount is gonna go down. So 5x, there we go. That's the equation. Draw a graph. All right, let's have some fun. How do you draw a linear graph? You should know this. We've done this many times, but tell me, how do you draw a linear graph? Which is something you're also doing in school.
You start at the y-intercept.
Yeah, and 1890 is such a big number, right? I'm just gonna say this is 1890, whatever. And then what? Well then, look at the slope. The slope is rise over run, which is 5. So that means the run is 1, right? Slope is 5 or 5 over 1. So that means for every 1 unit you go to the right, run is right. You go
You go
5
5
units up.
down.
Yeah, 5 units down. Yeah, sorry, 5 units. So you'll end up at 1885. 1 comma 1885, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And there you go. What does X represent? We know Y. What does X and Y represent here? kind of similar to the last question. Y represents the amount of apple juice left in the container after X minutes. X is the minute, the number of minutes that has passed since 10 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see it?
Uh-huh.
So after 10 a.m. at 10:01 a.m., you're gonna have 1885. At 10:02, you will have 1880, and like that. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Part B. When will 1 liter of juice be left in the carton? How many milliliters in a liter?
Is it 100?
Go try it. No, it's not. It's 1,000.
Oh.
Let's quickly talk about units. We're talking about volume, right? For volume, the only thing you need to know is that in 1 liter, there is 1,000 milliliters. We usually don't use any higher distinctions or lower distinctions for volume. Not yet anyways. But in length, which is distance, length is the same thing as distance, we do use a lot more things. Let me help you run this down. In 1 centimeters, how many millimeters in 1 centimeters do you think? If you have a ruler, it kind of tells you, it gives it away. In 1 centimeters, there's 10 millimeters. Okay? So for example, if you have a ruler and on this it says 1 centimeter, on this it says 2 centimeters, that means there are 10 millimeters. Every see this distance is 1 millimeter. This distance is 1 millimeter, and then there's 10 of them. On 1 centimeters, there are 10 millimeters. In 1 meters, how many centimeters in 1 meter? 100. In 1 meters, there are 100 centimeters.
Uh-huh.
And then what else do we use a lot? In 1 kilometer, how many meters in 1 kilometer? Which is the same thing as this. There's gonna be 1,000 meters, okay? And there we go. That's the chart basically that you will be using. The first one, this one isn't as important, but these two are these guys, they come up over and over. But for the most part, just remember that in 1 liter, there's 1,000 milliliters. In 1 kilometer, there are 1,000 meters, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So going back to this question, we know 1 liter of juice, that's gonna be 1,000 milliliters. And Y is the amount of juice left, yeah? What does X represent, if you remember?
Minutes?
Minutes, yeah, the number of minutes after 10 a.m. So if X is 1, that's 10:01. So let's solve this equation. 1,000 minus 1,890 minus 5x. How do we solve this for X?
Subtract 1890.
Okay, let's do that. Well, we don't need a calculator for that, do we? What's 1,000 minus 1,890? It's just negative 890. Okay, you can use your calculator if you want. What I did was this. Well, 1890, I just kind of like in my head, I wrote that as 1,000 plus 890. Yeah. So the 1,000 and 1,000 cancels out, and then you can just move this to the other side, becomes negative 890. Now what?
Divide by -5.
Yeah. So 890 divided by 5 is 178. All right, 178 minutes has passed. Can you tell me what the time is? Since 10 a.m., okay, since 10 a.m., 178 minutes have passed. What's the time? What if I told you, or for example, instead of 178, let's say 180 minutes have passed, or has passed, whatever, since 10 a.m. 180 minutes. How many hours in 180 minutes?
3.
3. So what's the time? We started at 10, and then 3 hours have passed. What's the time?
1 p.m.
1 p.m. 178 is how many minutes less than 180 minutes? It's 2 minutes
2.
less, right? So what's the time? We're at 1 p.m. right now. Let's go back 2 minutes.
12:58
There we
a.m.
go. There we go. 12:58 p.m. And you're done.
Mm-hmm.
Make sense? Time is important, I guess. Well, it is important. What I meant was learning about time is also important. How are you with clocks? You may not like this. You may not like this next part of what's going to happen. I know a lot of students, they're not very comfortable with this. So this is a 9, okay? 10, 11, 12. You know how a clock works, hopefully. If not, then I guess we're gonna get into it right now. Because everyone these days has a digital clock, but sometimes they will give you questions with an analog one like that. Let's say the hour hand, which is always gonna be the thicker one and the smaller one, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The hour hand is pointed in that direction, and the minute hand is gonna be a little bit longer. It's pointed in that 8 direction, and then the second hand is pointed here. What's the time? And give me hours, minutes, and seconds. I'll do the first few. Are you comfortable with an analog clock?
Mm-hmm.
What's the time then? Tell me.
2 hours and 40 minutes
Yeah,
and 30 seconds.
yeah, there we go. That's it. Okay, what about if all 3 of them are pointed right there? All 3 of them are pointed here. What's the time then? Everything is pointed in this direction, towards the 2. The hour
2
hand,
hour and 10 minutes
yeah,
and 10 seconds.
yeah, there we go. Hour, minutes, seconds, okay? Analog clock. They could give you a question like that. Let's do another commission question because we've done a couple of them. And now all I need you to do is tell me the equation in terms of y. Or actually, just read the question. Tell me what y and x represents. Commission question. They almost always represent the same thing. Any ideas?
Is y 900?
Is y 900? Forget about the numbers. What does it represent? Yeah, y would be 900 later.
Like the total earned?
Yeah, what does x represent?
The number of weeks?
No. Because earned is dependent on the commission, right?
Mm-hmm.
So x is the sales. Whenever you get these commission type questions with a percent on them, x is always going to be the sales, y is always going to be your wage or whatever income.
Okay.
So what's the equation here in terms of y and x? Y equals to something, x plus something, or minus, depends, I guess. What be the equation here? Well, we know something is flat, initial value. He's going to make
280.
280 for sure. That's the y-intercept. What's the slope? Well, it's going to be 0.04. He makes 4% of sales, so 0.04% of x, 0.04x. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's the y is income. X is sales. 280 is the y-intercept, which is the amount that he's going to get paid initially or regardless of the slope. Y-intercept. And 0.04 is like the rate in this case. It's a commission percent, right? So let's look at A.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you were right earlier. Y is 900. So 0.04x plus 280. How do we solve this for x?
Subtract 280.
Yeah, and then divide by 0.04. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So let me use this. 900 minus 280 divided by 0.04. The answer is 15,500. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's double check if that's right, which is what B is saying. If we plug 15,500 into x, do we get 900? So to do part B, it says, look at this, use it to verify your answer. So we're going to plug x back into the equation. Now we know x, and if we plug this in right, we should always get the same answer. So we will get the same answer. It's 900. There we go. Okay, so when it says verify, ditch the y, include the x, and vice versa. Was this difficult?
Nope.
Again, I'm going to ask you the same question to begin with. So we're charging 10 bucks per square foot. So that should give you an idea what the 10 represents, or what X represents. And then we're also paying a flat fee of 40. Okay, we're talking about fees. What does Y represent? Not the number. I'm not asking about the number, which will come in the next part. What does X and Y represent?
X is square feet.
Yes. What about Y?
The total amount.
Yeah. Y is the bill or whatever. So what's our equation? Y equals to what X plus what, or minus?
10x plus 40.
Perfect. Part A, determine the greatest area that he can pay for 3,500. So what is 3,500, X or Y?
Y.
Yeah, so replace Y, the bill, with 3,500, 10x plus 40. Subtract 40, you'll get 3,460 equals 10x. Divide by 10, x is 346. So he can pay 346 square foot with that money, okay?
Mhm.
Andrew needs to include 5 cubic yards of sand costing 15 per cubic yard. So how much does this cost? It's 15 per yard. We need 5 of those. So if he wants to include the sand, how much is the sand bill? It's $15 per cubic yard. And then there's 5 of those. Cubic yard just means yard cubed. It's a very weird unit. That's an American kind of like a unit. It's just yard cubed. You can just treat it as foot cubed or meters cubed or something. It's just a unit of volume. There's 5. He pays 15 each, so that means $75, right?
Mhm.
So he had a budget of $35.50, but now his total budget, well, his budget for the square foot is gonna be 3,500 minus 75. So 34.25. Now he only has 34.25 for the square foot for the area. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So what we need to do is instead of doing it by 3,500, we need to do it by 34.25 like that. Subtract 40, you get 385 equals 10x. Divide by 10. So now x is gonna be 338.5. Okay.
Mhm.
Before he had 346 square foot, but now if he wants to include sand in the budget, he can only do so for 338.5 square foot. Cool. So how much
Uh-huh.
did the area go down by?
You subtract.
Yeah, you just subtract. So it's gonna be 7.5. So he lost 7.5 square feet to include some sand, 5 cubic yards of sand. Okay.
Uh-huh.
How do you find these questions?
Not so bad.
Once you identify your x and your y's, then everything is gonna kind of fit in together. Then you know what your slope is, what your b is. So there's only 4 things, okay?
Mhm.
All right, let's finish there for today.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.